Let's talk Canada. This is part 2 of the right-wing manifesto. Before we really get into the current plot against civilized democracies, we need to acknowledge the past and the misuse of nationalism, patriotism, and religion as common sense. Fundamentalism was first used to convince people of their gender duties. False notions of superiority were used on men to make them authoritarian in the conduct of their personal life, and hateful toward any other ethnicity, religious faith, or ideology. This ignorance was trickled down to women and children because they had to be obedient and not defy the man of the house. Females were reared to be subservient and accept that they were lesser and fulfill their gender role. Children were to be repressed, oppressed, and molded into the gender role. To convince people of this method of enslavement and entrapment, conditioning was required. So in truth, the first propaganda was indeed man-written Bibles. I read the entire King James Bible when I was 9 years old. I read it to learn why my parents were so miserable and abusive. As I was reading, questions arose. The first question was, why didn't my parents comprehend that this book was based on the character of King James, what he perceived and what he believed was just and righteous? The more important question came with the incorporation of Jesus as a magical being that could perform incredible miracles. They made the man that they tortured and murdered into a martyr to aspire to, one that could forgive the barbaric and cruel actions taken against him, and be able to forgive the sins of every man who committed such heinous acts against another. Here's a fact that most people who need to believe in the Bible don't want to acknowledge. That fact is Jesus was murdered because he was teaching the principles of life. His teaching was causing the people to question and protest the king. In the movie titled The Greatest Story Ever Told, they wrote that Jesus overturned a tax collector's table. That was a big capitalist lie. Jesus knew that the king was taking the contributions of the people, but had no intention of serving for the good of all. By now you're wondering why I'm telling you this. It's to point out that propagandists and marketers know you're already mentally conditioned and therefore susceptible to believe their crap. In everything that you read, see, and are told, you most definitely should be able to come to your own intelligent conclusions. Part 3 of this project will provide you with information on how religion managed to get into our government. Until then, be aware and remain Canadian.